It's January 22nd, 2002. This is TNT number 5. The primary axiom that we hear around here so often is that our experience is the expression, the outpicturing of our own consciousness. Everything we deal with is consciousness expressed. And we've been talking about various ways of looking at the picture, the outpicturing. And I thought tonight I would talk about Robert's, my favorite saying of Robert's. Robert used to close almost every talk, it seemed like, with this, or open them. Usually open them actually by saying all is well and everything is unfolding exactly as it should. Sometimes they say all is exceedingly well. And in fact, I even have a T-shirt that Diane made for me that says all is exceedingly well, because I use that so much. And I used to have it on my telephone as my answering message. People used to call just to get the message. They didn't care whether I was here or not. They just wanted to hear the message. And I thought that was fine. Yeah, for business reasons. I'll put it back on after an ad finishes running. But I'm running an ad in the paper and have to do something straight while we're looking for customers. Anyway, the question is, what does that mean? All is well, everything is unfolding exactly as it should. And I was listening to a CD the other night, and it was about that really. What all is well means is that there are no mistakes. Nothing is wrong. Everything is doing exactly what it's supposed to do. All the right people are in all the right places. There are no accidents. Everything is intentional. And specifically, we, each of us, is exactly where we're supposed to be. Doing exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And of course it doesn't seem that way at all. It doesn't feel that way at all. Yeah, real clear. But things could be better. You know, there are all these bad people in my life. Good people in my life, and there are bad people in my life, but obviously it would be better if the bad people weren't in my life. But see, that's not true. It's the bad people, the needles as we call them in the script work, it's the bad people, it's the ones that make you uncomfortable, that drive you here, that bring you to this work, that force you to learn to meditate, that bring you to sometimes bring you to a discipline of meditating hourly or every half hour. The more pain you're in, the more pain you're in, the more frequently you strive to get centered. It used to be, the more pain you were in, the louder you shrieked. But now the more pain you're in, the more quickly you try to go to your center. More frequently you go to the center. We all learn to do half-hour meditations, 5-second or 10-second meditations every 15 minutes or every half an hour, or as often as we need to stop feeling uncomfortable. Because as we get further and further along this path, we have less and less tolerance for discomfort. So the needles in our lives, the people that bother us, that rile us, that ruffle our feathers, are the ones who are doing us the service of bringing us to our spiritual practices. The nice people are a hindrance. The nice people in your life allow you to go on doing exactly what you're doing. You don't need to pray, you don't need to meditate, you don't need to be of service, you don't need to read, you don't need to listen to tapes. People don't listen to the Robert tapes when they're feeling great. They listen to the Robert tapes when they're uncomfortable and need to be centered. We don't listen to the Joel tapes because we're feeling spiritual. We listen to the Joel tapes because we want to feel spiritual. So, the people that are not pushing you are doing you no service at all. They're doing you a disservice. The ones who are really nice and allow you to display all your faults without telling you about them are really not helping you at all in your spiritual progress. So bless your needles. So everything's unfolding exactly as it should. The fact is that the way it works, this whole thing, is that we are always being presented with exactly the next experience that we need to be presented with in order to grow spiritually. And as you may have noticed, we get presented with that experience, and presented with that experience, and presented with that experience, and presented with that experience, until we grow spiritually. The reason for that, of course, is that the uncomfortable experience is a result of a false belief that we have, and a false belief in our consciousness about our separateness from God and our need to take care of things ourselves and do things ourselves. And that false belief is exactly what's manifesting itself as our experience. So until the belief changes, the experience can't. Somebody once told me it's like a slideshow. God's running a slide projector and he puts a slide on the screen and says, "Can you accept that and love that with all your heart?" And you say, "Yep." And he takes the slide and throws it away and puts up the next one. "Can you accept that and love that with all your heart?" "Nope." Takes that, puts it back in the tray, shows you the next one.
Can you give an example of that?
Any experience at all that you react to will not go away. Any uncomfortable experience that you have that results in a reaction on your part is one that you have not yet dealt with correctly. Your reaction of anger or fear or indignation or self-righteousness or yada 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 sustains the experience. You're giving the experience energy, you're confirming in your mind how strongly you believe in it, and you're sustaining it. And so although that one may go away, the belief is still in your mind, and the next one will show up. People who are not doing spiritual work, who have a boyfriend, and he leaves, and so they pick a totally different guy who treats them exactly the same. And he leaves, so they find a totally different guy, and he treats them exactly the same. And this goes on until they change. Or for men, the same with women, or men, or whatever, yaks, as Robert would say, whatever your preference is. Your reactions sustain the situation. So, of course, the secret is to learn to not react to things. If we continue to react we continue to sustain the experience, and we continue to keep our mind busy and churning, and we will never get the silence that is necessary to see the truth. And we have to stop reacting. We have to learn to not react, just on the faith that we have to learn to not react in order to get quiet enough to see that what we have been reacting to is just an image in consciousness, just an outpicturing of our own consciousness. Thoughts are things. But as long as you're reacting, you will never get a glimpse of the fact that you're reacting to your own consciousness, to your own beliefs, to your own interpretation of the experience. I was talking with one of the ladies I sponsor whose mother has been in town for a week, and we had talked beforehand about this, and I said, well, why don't you just, because she's in the relationship class, and this is one of the non-negotiable, I said, why don't you, instead of thinking you know who's going to be there, just watch every day and see who's there and see what she's like. And she got it, and so she started doing that, and she watched her mother being childish and being a little girl and laughing, and you know, her mother was just a little girl doing whatever she was doing. And she and this lady was able to watch this and enjoy it. And if she had been in the same situation exactly without preparing herself in advance, she would have wanted her mother to be a mother and behave like her concept of what mother should be. And she would have spent the week in great pain, great misery, trying to get her mother to be a mother, and trying to get her to not make her mother her, and trying to get her to quit acting like a child, and you know, and she would have spent a miserable week. But instead, because she was curious about who was there and discovered this delightful, playful creature was there, who was not anything at all like a mother, but was a perfectly reasonable, playful creature, she had a good time with her. So the picture wouldn't have been any different in either situation. It was just what was in her head. She went in there looking instead of expecting. She went in there wondering instead of knowing how it should be. We had one talk earlier on the fact that knowing how things should be is the greatest burden that any human being carries. We had another talk, I'm seeing now that this ties them all together, we had another talk about leave everything alone, which is don't react. Which is don't react. If you can just watch what's happening, that's the first step. Instead of knowing how it should be, instead of having expectations, instead of knowing how people should be, having concepts about them, about what you expect from them, if you can just walk into every situation watching them, watching it, watching yourself, and even if you do something silly, just watching that. If you can do that, you make the first really important breakthrough in finding peace. Like Sosan says, have no opinion for or against. He says the great way is not difficult for those who have no preferences. You know what he's saying? That's why I love that so much. Those 5 sentences say it all. Have no opinion for or against. What one likes and what one dislikes are the disease of the mind, he says. So if you're watching, you're not involved emotionally. And you will quiet down. And you will perhaps get quiet enough to see that it's just an image. It's just that what you've been dealing with, what you're dealing with right now, are just your concepts. It's just an image. And if you get quiet enough to see that, you're way on the path. On the other hand, you can have opinions, you can have preferences, you can have expectations, and they don't happen, and you react. And as a result of the reaction, you're going to be locked into it. You will not be able to see what's going on. What you're really doing is you're letting the world show you whatever it wants. You're letting the world show you whatever human consciousness is, which is what's in your head if you're not taking charge of it. You're letting the world show you what it wants to show you. And what it's showing you is what you believe. So you're letting the world show you your beliefs, and then you're reacting to it. And that's a bind. You react to your beliefs, it sustains your beliefs. Here they come again, you react to them, it strengthens your beliefs. This is the script story for those of you who've been doing the script work. This is the script story, although usually it happens lifetime after lifetime. But this is the script story, and it's both short-term and long-term. What the world shows us is the karmic dance, is the karmic wheel, is karma, things in the world. The story that it tells us about. If we believe that this is real rather than an image, the story it's telling us is one about karma. You know, you do this and you get that. And, you know, I do this to you this lifetime and you do that to me next lifetime. And the world is showing us the more than a karmic dance, it's the karmic wheel. It's lifetime after lifetime after karma. I do it to you this time and you get pissed off, and we come back next lifetime and you do it to me and I get pissed off, so we come back next lifetime and I do it to you and you get pissed off. And this dance goes on and on forever. And it won't stop as long as you believe it's real. So the way out of the loop, once again, is to start seeing that it's not real, which again is back to the not reacting. It requires that we learn to not react. The reacting, well, the reacting just shows that we believe the picture. I don't know how to get here. What is it that's reacting? Who is it that's reacting? That's the question. We may as well tie in self-inquiry. As long as we're tying all these talks together, we may as well tie it into self-inquiry talk too. Who is it that's reacting? The one who is reacting is the personal sense of I. And the personal sense of I is just a sense of I. It's not I. It's just a sense of I. It's the personal sense of I. It's what Robert calls the I thought. Just a thought. We talked about that a little bit before. The illusion that there is this separate entity that I call I, the personal I, arises because of the incessant repetition in the head of I. Being the reacting sustains the I. When you react to something, it sustains the you as well as the something. Reacting to something sustains both. It sustains both the concept that there is a you and the concept that there's something wrong out there. The I is just the personal sense of I is just the endless repetition in our head of the thought I. And that's all most of us think about all day long, is whether I'm going to get this or do this or not get that, or is he going to do this or is she going to not do that, or, it's just I, endlessly. And see, that's what I is. It's just a thought. It's just a sense. And then we realize that it's that I that has the problems. This I thought is what has the problem, not me. It's the I thought that has the problem. This sense of I, this sense of a being independent, autonomous, self-powerful, has to take care of itself, the sense that there is such a being, that sense is the one that has all the problems. So what can the problems be other than a thought? And it's a thought thinking it has problems. You know? But it sustains itself, and it sustains itself, and of course, all of human consciousness, the KFUC radio station continually broadcasts to us, confirms to us that this I is a reality. There's no question in your mind that this I is a reality. It's confirmed. This is the one thing that needs to be broken, and it's the hardest thing in the world to break, of course, because it's absolutely confirmed endlessly that there is this I. But if we do some self-inquiry, if we go inside and look for this I, there's no answer. When the committee chatters in your head, say, who said that? Boy, nobody raises their hand. There's nobody in there to raise their hand, or it was me, Excuse me, it was Sue, There's nobody in there that ever does that. If you want to stop your head, don't try to stop your head. Don't grit your teeth. Just ask who's talking. They all get quiet in a hot second. There's nobody in there. It's just an illusion. Like clouds in the sky on a cloudy day where the sky is gray. All you've ever seen is a gray sky. And so you think skies are gray. But as you get quieter, it's like, as perhaps the sun comes down and it burns through the clouds a little bit, as you get quieter, patches of blue appear. All of a sudden you look up there and the gray is getting lighter and lighter, and then all of a sudden it gets blue, and you look up there, like that. And same way, when you get quieter and quieter and quieter and stop sustaining this delusion, you see a glimpse of the silence. And once you start seeing this a little bit, you start looking harder, and then you notice that there's some blue over there next to the horizon, and you see a patch of it over there and a patch there. And a lot of pure clears. And you're getting silent more and more, getting more and more silent, and getting more and more silent more and more. The patches of blue get bigger, and you see more and more. And the clouds are just the thoughts. The clouds in this are just the thoughts. And the blue sky is yourself. But there were so many thoughts that it was absolutely opaque, and you thought that the thoughts were yourself. Like you're looking up, there's so many clouds that it's all gray, and you've never seen the blue, and so you think the clouds are the sky. So that's why I talk about, the most important thing is getting silent. Be in the silence. One way to do that is just to ask who's talking. The other way, the way we talked about last week, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, is about self-inquiry, which is a very direct route to stopping that. If you, whenever a thought comes up, you can start with the uncomfortable stuff. Originally, we start with the uncomfortable stuff. When I'm really feeling uncomfortable, when something starts to make me uncomfortable, when I feel the glitch and I'm about to get uncomfortable, instead of reacting and sustaining it and myself, the illusion of me, if I were instead just to simply ask, who's getting uncomfortable? Who wants to react to that? Who thinks she should be my mother? Who thinks he should behave himself? Whatever the point is that's making you uncomfortable, if instead of going there, you ask, who is it that thinks it should be different than it is? There'll be some silence. And then your head will fire up and say, that's nonsense. And you say, who thinks it's nonsense? And there's another pause. And your head will say something else. And you do this for as long as you're willing to do it. But during this whole experience, the problem has not been a problem. You know, we're here working on the self-inquiry thing. You're not working about the problem. What happens is that the problems diminish a great deal because you're not working on them. You know, they diminish because you're not sustaining them. They also diminish because you're not noticing them. Your attention is over here. They diminish because you're not sucked in by them. You're looking at them. And they diminish as your experience grows because you see more and more that it wasn't a problem, or it didn't need my reaction or my attention.
So then the problems are just opportunities for healing, right?
Or spiritual growth, or a trigger to do self-inquiry, or whatever you want to call it. You know, they're nudges to know the truth. A problem is a lie.
So then if you look at it and you decide, you make a conscious decision that I'm going to shift my consciousness on this, and this I've written this script, and the script is a healing, then you've shifted and then it's no longer a problem. This is an opportunity for healing, or is that adding expectation?
Well, and even that's an improvement over what you had, for sure. But the fact is you still think there's something out there, and what I'm saying is that it's not a problem and it's not a healing. I'm saying it's not. For whom is it a healing is as valid a question as for whom is it a problem. And what I was going to say is, having worked on your problems until they're no longer bothering you, then the next stage to getting free is to stop reacting to the good stuff. Because the good stuff will keep you tied just as firmly as the bad stuff. Of course, your life is better now, so you're less inclined to work at some point, but the good stuff will keep you tied just as firmly as the bad stuff. And it is the nature of everything that it will change. So the good stuff will become bad stuff. And It is also our nature. When we have something to fear, we'll lose it.
So what's the purpose of getting into the stuff at all then?
There's no purpose to get into the stuff.
There is no purpose, whether it's bad stuff or good stuff.
Not at all.
Because it's going to change. It's that,
But if you
duality again.
But if you could see that it was an image on the screen, then you'd be free from it. It's like if you're looking at a movie and you get caught up in the movie. You can get caught up in a good movie or you can get caught up in a bad movie and you're just as caught up in it. I mean, and it's not real. Or you can be in your chair at the theater, aware of the screen and aware of the colored lights flashing on it and thinking that's interesting, and totally disjoint from it.
That's the image I just got, like as if I'm describing to you the problem that this soap opera lady has, and I'm going on and on about it, and you're thinking, well, who cares? It's a soap opera.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, no, you don't understand. She has this, and like I'm totally.
Mm-hmm. That's it. Yeah.
Crazy as that is. Like I want to spend 5 days telling you about this lady in soap opera and what her problems are, and how real they are, and how you really need to hear it.
Yeah. It's no different than if you were holding that conversation in a dream. You're telling somebody in a dream how sick you are. I've got cancer. You're telling this guy in the dream, and the guy in the dream is telling you, hey, it's just a dream, who cares? And of course you don't believe it's a dream. You think it's serious, so you're all upset about it. The guy's saying it's a dream, who cares? Don't worry about it. One day you wake up, and you think, it was a dream, who cares? And once you wake up, then you don't go try to find the cure. You don't try to find the healing for the cancer that you had in the dream. There was no cancer, and there was no you. But to see any of this, we have to first stop reacting. We have to become aware of that first clench, that glitch I call it, when your solar plexus turns a little bit or your body tenses up. That's the sign that your physical body, so to speak, is going into the fight or flight syndrome. A little bit of adrenaline starting to come up and your body's getting ready to do a fight or flight, and that means you're believing what's happening out there and you're about to have a reaction of fighting or flighting. And if you can train yourself to recognize that, slowly, the sky gets bluer. And you start to see who you really are. And that is so much more joyful than the good stuff, the good reactions. People don't want to give up the good stuff. Well, I don't want to give up all the good stuff. I want the good reactions, I just don't want the bad reactions. I want half of dualism. My half. That ain't the nature of it, Coins have the other side. Dualism, always has the other side, and they always come around. That's what the karmic dance is about. That's the karmic wheel. The other side comes up. If you experience the good, you have a lifetime of error-free happiness. The next lifetime, you're going to be a miserable pauper, probably, who's never right. Because we get to experience it all, from one side to the other, round and round. That's the nature of duality. If you're tall this time, you're going to be short next time. Today your husband's beating you, and next time around you're his mother beating him. you know.
But does there always have to be a next time? I mean, doesn't the
When
true
you
self
stop.
actually evolve to a place where it wakes up and there's not a next time?
When you stop reacting and you see who you are, and you see that it's all an image in mind, then you'll realize that there never was any karma, there never was any karmic wheel. That's all part of
Again.
the game, the Leela, the stuff, all part of the stuff. If your mind stops, karma's over, dualism is over, good and bad is over, all of it's over when your mind is stopped. You can experience that if you practice early in the morning. If you can get to bed in time that you wake up naturally without an alarm clock. And if you can practice going to sleep with the idea that when I wake up I'm going to pay attention. Then when you wake up, there's a period between when you wake up and the first thought. There's a gap. And that gap is the gap I'm talking about, and you can experience it. And then, of course, your mind will immediately jump in and say, is this it? And the answer is not anymore. But it was. So you can experience it, and you can learn to expand that. It's the pause between becoming conscious and the first I thought. And your mind says, I've got it. Not anymore. But you can experience it there. And that's probably that's one of the easiest places to experience it. And having experienced it there, then you will recognize it when you are successful in encountering the true silence in meditation. Or you'll recognize it as exactly the same pause if you're doing self-inquiry and you say, to whom does this come? And there's a pause and you'll be aware that it's the same pause and you'll start finding them. And those pauses, that is the blue sky patch between the thoughts. And you can practice that. Practice dropping into the silence, and you can just use who am I, use the self-inquiry, use who, to drop you directly into the silence, and you can get to where you can drop into the silence whenever you wish. It's a choice to be in the silence rather than reacting. And then that grows longer and longer.
I notice this all the time with little kids. They go into the zone where they're not looking at anything and they're not reacting to anything.
Mm-hmm.
And
They're not looking at
he
anything,
does it all
you're
the
here.
time, many times all throughout the day. And like if someone's talking, I'll be like, leave him alone, he's in the zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was quiet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he's a lot closer than you are.
Yeah, I know.
He's been there more recently. So let's do questions about that or anything at all. Let's just chat for a while.
So, I have a question.
Sure.
Once you are at a place in your practice where you're able to be more aware of the picture screen, if you will, in the movie that's going on, and the duality and the good and the bad and the constant turning over of that. Where or how does, I think it ties back into the topic of your discussion tonight, that the true self is just unfolding as it's supposed to. There's no need really to do anything.
Yeah, that's almost right. Yes, it's right, there's no need to do anything. No, it's not quite right that the true self is unfolding as it's supposed to. The true self, your true self, is right now and always has been exactly what it is. Just like above the gray sky, the sky above it has always been blue.
So what is the true self supposed to do then?
The true self doesn't need to do anything. What you need to do is discover it. That's all. It's like a fish swimming around in the ocean looking for water.
Then why do we always try to figure out what we're supposed to be doing, or what the right choices are, or, you know, all this stuff that goes on in our head?
Who is this we?
You know who we are. You know.
Answer number one is, I don't know, why do you? Answer number two is, you don't. Nobody does. There's nobody there. That's part of the illusion. That's part of the Maya. Not happening. There never was a you separate from God. You're enlightened right now. You always have been enlightened. You've always been the one true self. The sky is always blue. You're sitting here looking at the clouds saying, when will the sky become blue? The sky is blue. Always has been blue.
So all of our experiences are to help us get to a place that we realize and discover and are able to maintain the sense of the real you.
That's how it appears to work. That's what the movie is about.
Okay.
The movie is about the movie is a movie about actors on a screen who are discovering that they're actors on a screen. Look,
that's what my question was.
Look.
I couldn't put it into words. It's inevitable to try to put it into words.
Right. The movie is about actors on a screen who suddenly discover, you know, it's Pete and Susie madly in love, having this great romance, and Pete all of a sudden says, Susie, you're not Susie. You're just lights on a screen. Look, we're not really Pete and Susie. We're the screen. It's a movie about people discovering that they're not really the movie, they're really the screen. And then it becomes absolutely irrelevant what was happening in the movie. Because the screen was always the screen, and there's nothing else there except the screen. You see, the fact that the players on the screen were just illusions. All there ever was light in the screen. There never was a Joe. There was just an image of a Joe. Yeah. We're home. Who's on the trip? Yeah.
So, is our purpose just to watch it unfold? I mean, my head wants to have some kind of meaning. It's just
a purpose, yeah.
Just to watch it.
It's God's story. It's God's Leela. It appears to be about, the movie is about individual spiritual growth. The movie is about people on the karmic wheel, and about coming back life after life, and about growing in wisdom, and about finally getting clear enough that you start being consciously on the spiritual path and making progress on the spiritual path and going from teacher to teacher and on and on and on.
But if we are that, then why do we have to watch the movie and wake up to being that? If we're already that.
The question is,
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
of course I do, but the one who's saying it doesn't exist. Why do we have to do that? You know, let's do it with a dream. So you're having a dream, and you're in the dream, and you're dreaming that you've got cancer, okay? And you're talking to somebody, and you say, "Why do I have to go through this cancer?" And he's saying, "You don't. There is no cancer." He's not saying you don't have to go through the cancer. He's saying you're not going through the cancer. You're have these experiences. So the question can't even be asked. Or no reason.
Well, that's a joke.
It kind of reminds me of the analogy like in the script where you recognize your script and then you remind yourself, oh, it's just a lie, and then it evaporates. Like I have this whole set of beliefs and reactions based on this lie, and if it's all based on this lie, then it's all false, and it evaporates. It kind of reminds me of the same thing.
Yeah. It's the I thought is the sense of separation. So we're back at the place where this thought is having experiences. Nonsense. It doesn't compute. The fact is that there is only one ego. There is only one I, and everything else is illusion. There's only one sky. There's apparently lots of holes in the clouds, but there's only one sky. Never was more than one sky, never was less than one sky. The sky's always been there, always been blue. And what the clouds are doing is of really no interest at all to the sky. And the clouds are slowly evaporating by the sun. The sun's just cooking through them. But that's all in the Leela.
So the only reason there's experience is because of reaction. Otherwise there is no experience. We're just being. Or we just are.
And not even quite that easy, because the only reason there's experience is because of reaction. The only reason there's reaction is because of experience.
They're mutual. But that whole chain there is what develops this false sense of I.
Mm-hmm. But
Because I think I'm the experience.
Mm-hmm. But that's not happening.
Or that I'm having.
But that's not. But even that's
That's
just what's really happening is lights on the screen.
Right. Yeah.
And now you're trying to ask whether this image came before that image or that image before this image, and what's really happening is lights on the screen. There never was. There never was either of those. Doesn't matter whether it was a war or a sunset on the screen. It's just lights on the screen. See, the language, the English language doesn't allow us to even ask the right questions.
Well, because the mind doesn't want to have us get rid of the I thought. It wants us to talk about how the reason why we have this problem is because of how our mother was, and go into the whole.
That's part of the movie.
Right. It wants us to get embroiled in
But what
this.
you're saying is it's bigger than that. You can't even can't even ask the question
That's
in
what I'm
words
saying.
that you can even possibly conceive.
That's what I'm
You
saying.
can't conceive it, period. Right?
Precisely what I'm saying. Yeah. And, as you know, you can experience it.
I know.
I rest my case. But I can only do that with people who had an experience.
Right.
If you've been in the silence, there's just no doubt. If you're having a dream and it's full of turmoil and all this stuff is going on and you're never going to blah, 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 and you wake up, there is no doubt that that was a dream. Okay? When you wake up, there will be no doubt that this is a dream. Okay? And then you will not ask me questions about why that person in the dream had to do this instead of that. Stuff like that. Because you'll say, it never happened. You know, where did all the space in the dream go? Where did the rooms in the dream go? Where did the countryside in the dream go? Where did the people in the dream go? Where did the time in the dream go? The dream only took 1 second in this time. Where did all that stuff go? It never happened. You know, the hour-long, the dream went on for hours, you know, in 1 second on the encephalograph or whatever they call it. You know, electrocardiogram says the person just had a 1 second dream. The person experienced an hour or 2 hours of dream, you know. Out in the countryside, you know, with blue skies and mountains and everything, you know. And where did the mountains go? Where did the time go? Where did the 2 hours go? Where did the people go? Where did the daisies go? They didn't go anywhere. They never were.
Because when you realize and experience that infinite silence, there is none of that.
That's right.
It's much greater.
It came out of the silence.
Right.
The infinite silence is like a term that Joel likes to use, is the womb of creation. You know, it all came out of that. But it all came out of that in the mind. All there is consciousness. But the first point tonight is to learn to not, the first step towards that experience is to learn to watch rather than reacting, to get back to a practical level, because this theoretical discussion about the theoretical nuances of this stuff isn't happening either. So, from the more practical side, from people who think they're real.
You think you're getting it? You're not?
Well, I mean, who's getting it?
I know.
If you're there, you may be getting it. You know, what's the point? But, as this story goes, those of us who do this work start having a better dream, a more pleasant dream. The dream converts from nightmares to pleasant experiences. That's true. Because the dream is about the fact that the content of your consciousness outpictures. It's a dream within a dream. So your experience is an outpicturing of your consciousness within this Leela, which is within the consciousness. So it's an outpicturing within an outpicturing, and you may dream that you're dreaming, and that's another one within that. But it's all games within consciousness, but the fact is, the content of your consciousness changes, the picture changes. That we all demonstrate because most of us are having a much higher experience than we used to be having. We are now looking at things which used to terrorize us.
our senses like a projector then? Like, we use the analogy of the film a
No,
lot.
your senses aren't projected. It's part of the projection.
Oh,
The mind is the projector. And it's not your mind, it's the mind is the projector. It's interesting because we believe it's so real because it comes in on all 5 of our senses. But our senses are part of the projection. Our senses aren't, we think our senses are real and we're using our senses to verify whether or not that's real. But the fact is our senses are part of what needs to be verified as to whether it's real or not. It's the whole body that's is part of this mechanism that needs to be verified as to whether it's real or not. So the senses are not a viable tool to test with because it's part of the experiment.
Part of the movie getting better, the dream getting better too, is your, what would you say, you tend to rely less upon the 5 senses and more on your intuition?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we talk a lot
Your
about
intuition gets stronger.
we talk about knowing the truth in spite of the appearance. Knowing the truth in spite of the appearance changes the appearance. Many of us have demonstrated that a lot.
What's an example of that?
Healings, sobriety, successful marriages. Your whole life.
Oh, that.
No, your whole life is significantly better as a result of knowing more truth. And you, I know personally, have learned that when your panties are in a bunch, to sit down and know the truth. Then you just know the truth at it, right? Why? Because it changes. Yep. We all know that. And if you can't think of anything else to do self-inquiry about, ask yourself who's listening to this nonsense. Now let's be quiet for a minute. Let's just drop into it. I'll meet you there. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.